Good morning or good night, Gacha Kingdom. Brat Summer is back with a vengeance, so I hope y'all don't mind that I have my air conditioner on in the background because holy lord! Monoto and Speedo, please come save us. Today's video protagonists are going to be Pan Yinhu, Zenless Zero, and Da Pan Arknights Endfield. I can't believe we are living in the timeline where two of the biggest gacha companies decide to give us two big panda men. Who knew, right? Now I know a lot of y'all are expecting me to talk about how Pan Yinhu inspired this video because of his M6 non-naked mindscape art and how he's showing off his pits for semi-free. I mean, I know some of y'all spent money on yixuan just to try to get Pan Yinhu back then. I hope a lot of y'all got M6 back then, now that we have an A rank selector. But that's actually not the case. I've actually been sitting on this video idea for a while now because this entire video was inspired by a piece done by Kokubu, and it's of Da Pan. And ever since the big men bara in me, sleeper agent in me, has woken up with this revelation, I decided to hit up the YouTube history books to see who was the first panda to be added into the Chinese gacha games. It's surprising that it took us this long for us to get a panda. Well, okay, Arknights technically did it, but Faye Eater? Is that what her name was? I forgot. She was a panda, but like not technically a panda. So I mean, like, we go back to January 2025 where Hypergryph did their first closed beta test for Arknights Endfield. Here is where we get introduced to Da Pan. He's got a big leather jacket, white tank top that's got some Chinese on it. He puts on aviators with chopsticks. You can't make that shit up. And he's got a big belt and nothing underneath. Is this like Pokemon where it's like Machamp and Machoke? Is that clothes? Or like he's got nothing under that belt? Pan's situation aside, it was actually kind of surprising to rediscover the fact that Da Pan got introduced to us before Pan Yinhu got introduced to us. And you know, Pan Yinhu is way more popular than Da Pan, but I also think that's just because Arknights Endfield is not as popular as Zenless Zero. We can attest to this because a lot of the people in the comments of my preview we're all talking about Pan Yinhu, which, I mean, understandably, but I mean, this man, Da Pan doesn't even have pants. To give a reference in this timeline, when the Arknights Endfield first closed beta test was online, we were in version 1.5 in Zenless Zero, which was the Astra and Evelyn update. The first time we met Pan Yinhu was in April of 2025, right before the 1.7 update of Zenless Zero. We got a season 2 trailer preview where we would see Pan Yinhu buy some stuff for Swabian Temple, and a lot of people found it really funny that we were getting two pandas back to back. Okay, well, not necessarily back to back, but in this case, Pan Yinhu would be released in version 2.0 of Zenless Zero, which is in June 2025, and then Da Pan would actually come out with Arknights Endfield as a launch character in January 2026. Pan Yinhu's outfit is pretty much a stereotypical what you would think a disciple at a martial arts temple would look like. I would say what you would think of what they would look like because La Fufu, Yixuan, and Yixuan do not look like that, which, you know, Yixuan is the master and all. Okay, I can close my eyes and look the other way, but La Fufu and Yixuan, at least Bell and Wise also look like stereotypical, like, lower disciples of a martial arts temple ready to beat ass at any time. Like, literally, Bell is, like, ready to fight or flight. Nah, she is fighting, bro. So that's like 50-50. We take those. Day 2 of finishing out the 2 panda audio because I had to go do my job. And now I've lost my train of thought. I don't remember where I was. Wait. Pan Yinhu's default outfit. Yeah, that's right. That's what we were talking about. And I specified default outfit because Pan Yinhu actually got another outfit. In January 2026, the pan comes out, and I guess Hoyoverse was like, hey, they got a panda. We got a panda too, but we haven't done anything with him. Let's give him a skin. Am I right, guys? Y'all like pandas, right? So in February 2026, during the Angels of Delusion event, if you complete this event, you get a Pan Yinhu skin where he's cooking and stuff, and it's very cool. He's got like a golden wok that says Supreme on it. Actually insane. In hindsight, it's like really funny that they decided to give Yinhu a free skin during this event. Like, I don't even remember if Pan Yinhu even shows up during this event, and if he does, it's like a very like small amount of time that like isn't relevant to the story at all. Like, high-key, I may be just reading in between the lines a little bit too deep, but there's no way this is a coincidence.
There is no such thing as a
Arknights Endfield dropped, and then about 2 weeks later, Hoyoverse decided to give their own panda rose-tinted aviators, even though Pan Yinhu has like done nothing. I like this fit though. I like the Supreme Pan. I like the rose aviators. I like the airy pants, the chef culinary shirt. It hugs his body really tight. It kind of reminds me of like a China dress slash jipao. That could just be me. I think Menless Zone0 is getting to my fucking head. Pan Yinhu and Da Pan visually are very different, other than the fact that they're both pandas. And they also have glasses, well, kind of. Like, Pan Yinhu has like them spec glasses. I don't know what these are actually called, and both of them have woks. Pan Yinhu has his as a hat, and Da Pan wears his as a backpack, kind of. Going into this video, before doing any research at all, I had a feeling that Pan Yinhu and Da Pan's in-game lore was going to be very similar. If you don't know Pan Yinhu's iceberg lore because you either forgot or you don't do trust events, I'm just telling you, if you don't do trust events, you're missing out on a lot of polychromes. Here's like a TLDR so that we're all up to date, so we can talk about Da Pan's lore, because I know nobody knows Da Pan's lore because ain't nobody reading those text files. So in the new Eridu Zenless Zone0 universe, there are a race of Thyrans that are rare to come by. Panda Thyrans being one of them, and I guess Pan Yinhu's parents, being a gacha anime game after all, that orphaned him after finding out that he was a panda, and or both of them died. Because of that, when he was young, Yinhu was just scraping by, trying to figure out how to get his next paycheck just to get some more food. It wasn't until he found out that he had a good ether amplitude to go into the hollows where he started taking hollow raider jobs. That led up to one mission where he was in the hollow for maybe a little bit longer than he should have, and he ran to Yixuan because Yixuan was lost in the hollow because she's bad at directions, just like me. And she went up to Yinhu and was like, hey, how do I get out of this hollow? Yinhu panicked and was like, oh my god, she's gonna like rat me out and she's gonna steal shit from me. So Yinhu started fighting her and got his ass beat because this is Yixuan we're talking about here. Yixuan took Pan Yinhu out of the hollow, and when Yinhu regained consciousness, Yixuan was like, hey man, you were in the hollow for like way too long, and I know that you fighting some inner demons, and when you're in the hollow for way too long, them demons start possessing you, and then you become a demon, and then it's like blue lock, and then you start doing shit because of soccer. And so, what if you became a disciple under Yunkwei Summit? We offer 3 meals a day. You can unlock the inner potential in yourself, and you don't have to worry about nothing. And Yinhu took up Yixuan's offer just to find out that they don't have a cook. Because of that, Yinhu decided to take up the mantle as being the cook for Yunkwei Summit, and that's how we meet Pan Yinhu today. Outside of his trust events, Pan Yinhu doesn't really have a lot going for him in the main story, and then whenever he does show up, he's like, hey, Proxy, are you feeling hungry? You want some food? And then Bell and Wise are like, nah, it's okay, Pan Yinhu. You can give that to Lafufu, and Lafufu's like, yippee! Dapan falls in a very similar archetype. Whenever Dapan shows up, Dapan's like, oh, you look hungry, Edmund. Do you need to eat something? Here, have another thing of fried rice. And then Edmund gains like 500 pounds. And Perlica's like, how the fuck did that happen? In Arknights Endfield, you first meet Dapan at the AIC area of Yvonne's power plant area. And Dapan's like, hey, you know, are you the Edmund? Wow, that's crazy. It's good to see you again, Edmund. During this AIC storyline, Dapan actually does quite a bit because Dapan is really the only one that has leadership skills, and the leader of the AIC area isn't actually really a leader, and he starts panicking over the smallest of things. This is also where you learn that Dapan, other than being a cook, was actually an engineer, and then you get some more overworld awe puzzles. Ooh, I love puzzles. But before you start learning more about Dapan, the AIC is fully built, and then Dapan's like, okay, well, all y'all got this, right? I gotta go back to China. And the Edmund's like, okay, well, we gotta keep going too. We'll see you in China. And that's where we meet Dapan again. And that's where we learn that Dapan owns a hot pot shop. During your time in Wuling, Dapan's kind of just relegated to his hot pot shop for the majority of the time that you're in Wuling. You first meet him at the hot pot shop, and Dapan's like, whoa, Edmund, it's good to see you again. Hey, you got some time to have some hot pot? And you're like, yeah, sure I do. The second cutscene is when Tung Tung runs up to the hot pot, forces herself not to have hot pot, and she's like, have you seen this guy? He's got a black jacket, he's got a dark mask. I call him Dark Mask. And then the hot pot employee pulls up Dapan, and she's like, what the hell? You're not Dark Mask, what the hell? At this point, I was like, oh, Dapan's just gonna be relegated as just the cooking hot pot uncle comedy relief man. But Dapan just shows up during the Wuling Neferif raid, where Neferif's like, I'm gonna take you down. Dapan shows up riding a bunch of floating cubes and shit, shooting down lasers, and he's like, don't worry, Edmund, we'll take care of this side, you take care of the other side. And you're like, damn, thanks, Unk. After killing off Sarah, you and Zhuang Feiyi, Perlica, and Chen are walking around, and Dapan's like, hey, Zhuang Feiyi, you haven't had time to rest, what about taking some hot pot, eat some spicy food, that'll cool you down. And Zhuang Feiyi's like, oh my god, Uncle Pan, did I do a good job, compared to the last time I was Viceroy, when I was the first Viceroy 10 years ago, did I do a good job? And Uncle Pan's like, hey, don't beat yourself up, back then, there was a lot of things that was out of your control, and now you got things control. You're like, wow, that's my uncle right there. I decided to read up on Dapan's profile in game to see if there was any more context clues or background lore that we could get from Dapan, and if I decided to be a DMV worker and decide to read the actual files. I was going to read the most important parts verbatim to you, but I realized that it kind of felt like I was padding out the video. So if you want to pause and read the files yourself, then you can go ahead. But I'm just going to talk about the main takeaway points from each file. In the HR summary, we'll learn that Dapan's actual name is Pan Yuen, and he is a member of the Hongshan Academy of Science, also known as HAS. Along with being a Tensha at HAS, he is the owner of the hot pot eatery, an electrician, a carpenter, and a mechanic. The interviewer would bring up HAS, and every time that the interviewer would bring up HAS, Dapan would deflect and then talk about his other work experiences, and then at the end of the interview, the interviewer was like, oh shit, I still haven't learned anything about Dapan's past at HAS. File 1 is basically just Chen giving a rundown of why Uncle Pan is super cool, and why Perlica doesn't really like how Uncle Pan is making everybody fat. File 2 is written by a mentor of Dapan when Dapan was in his youth. Talks about how Dapan would do shit that's crazy as fuck, like playing ping pong with explosives while the explosives was lit, and how he would cook in the lab out of nowhere, but it was all because Dapan wanted challenges, and he was doing stuff in the engineering department because it was hard, and if there was no challenges, he didn't find any joy in them. But his mentor found it both fascinating and hard to work with him because, well, some sometimes his antics would fuck up his projects. While the other two files are pretty goofy, file 3 talks about why Dapan doesn't really want to bring up his past about Haas. Document 3 is a funeral document written by the widow of a Haas researcher. She first goes on talking about how her daughter was one of the casualties when the Wuling science station was first being built. Her husband was going to be the one that was going to carry out the voting process to see if the Tenshu wanted to go and get the 113 dead bodies over at the Wuling science station or not. And the only two people that ended up voting yes to that proposition was Zhuang Feiyi and Dapan. Due to this vote, and I quote, Dapan made quite a scene at Haas and soon left Hongshen after submitting his resignation letter. File 4 is a audio transcript of Dapan and the administrator. Based off of the title of this file being an investigation on the joint applicants and efficiency of Geronite machine automated control systems in the AIC, I'm going to assume that this audio transcript happened within like the present of Arknights Enfield, and it didn't happen like 10 years ago when the admin was like pre-coma. This is like post-coma amnesia admin. Timeline aside, the most important thing to take away from this audio transcript is the fact that Dapan is at least 40 years old. And then admin eggs on Dapan because Dapan's like, oh man, only if I had this AIC tech when I was 20 years old, maybe I would have been able to change the past and all the stuff at the Haas would have happened. And then as Edmund, there's dots, but Edmund probably says some shit like, hey man, all that shit is in the past, so this shit, we can still change the future now that we have Walmart technology. Now that we're all in the same ball acknowledgement of both pandas, Pan Yinhu and Dapan, my first revelation was that Dapan was basically like an older version of Pan Yinhu, but then I slept on it. I have a new revelation where I think Pan Yinhu and Dapan are very similar. I mean, like, I'm sure some of y'all are probably looking at Dapan and really thought that, oh, that's just Pan Yinhu in a outer ring AU all-ass outfit, because Pan Yinhu also came to terms with his like hard upbringing past thanks to the discipline and whoop ass of Yixuan. I think in another timeline where Wi-Fi Peninsula was more modern and looked like Wuling, and Wuling was like more like stereotypical China and looked more like Wi-Fi Peninsula, I think the roles of these two are so similar that these two could have been interchangeable like within any moment. Would put like a fucking push of a breeze, and we could have had Pan Yinhu in Arknights Enfield and Dapan in Zenless Zone 0. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that both big gacha companies wrote a very similar panda character, and if you didn't have that background lore acknowledgement that we all do now, if you just visually looked at these two, you would be like, man, like, these are kind of similar, huh? Now it's only a matter of time that hoyoverse decides to commit to the We Bear team and give us Ben Bigger Pan Yinhu and Polar or Larpo. Yeah, Larpo. Larpo is going to be just like Snowshine. Bro is going to be like an extreme sports snowboarder, or is like skier and does like backflips on snowboards and shit like that. So the main takeaway is that pandas are becoming more popular again, and if we keep pushing the big man furry propaganda, then we can get what we want. And possibly we could get a high rank S rank SSR 6-star double XL more big men coming our way if we keep pushing the big man propaganda.